Hi everyone, welcome back to Canary Cast. We knew who Norwich City were going to be playing this season. We now know when with the release of the fixtures this morning. It's all very exciting, isn't it, Jacob?
Yeah, mate, just looking forward to getting going now. Kind of, it's a couple of weeks away, but just want it to come round even quicker. Looking forward to it, yeah.
Yeah, it's closing in now, the start of the season. We have a guest this week. Ryan joins us from the Second Tier podcast. Ryan, for people that may not have come across the podcast, just give us a flavour of what it's about.
So it's quite apt that I'm on because we're a Championship specific podcast. So now that the Canaries are in the Championship, I hope to get loads of you listening to us. So we just basically go through all the games from each week, and as we've seen with the fixtures, there are a lot of games going on. So we'll be putting out episodes thick and fast. So yeah, get in touch with us, have a listen, and we'll try and be nice to Norwich throughout the season.
Yeah, highly recommend you go and listen to that. It's a great little podcast. Right, in the interest of time, I think we should press on because we've got loads of fixtures to discuss. The general plan is to go month by month. So, starting with September, it's pretty much, if we stay in the Cup, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, with the first 4 rounds of the Carabao Cup scheduled for September. Norwich start the season away at Huddersfield Town. Jacob, what was your initial reaction to that? Bit of an underwhelming start, or are you happy with it?
I think it's one of those clubs where it's complete unknown because they've obviously brought in, I'm going to butcher his name here, Carlos Corberán from Leeds, the Marcelo Bielsa assistant. So, and obviously they had Danny Cowley. It was kind of a shock sacking, wasn't it, when he went. So it's an interesting one. Obviously, never really coached at this level, first team coach. So is he going to be Bielsa kind of hectic pushing? We'll wait and see. But they do have some threats. But yeah, slightly underwhelming when you had Liverpool first game of last season back to John Smith Stadium, Huddersfield.
Yeah, Ryan, what are your sort of predictions for Huddersfield this season? What can you see them doing?
It's quite hard to say because, as Jacob said, we don't really know what to expect with them because under Danny Cowley, they were playing so much better. It wasn't a drastic improvement, but it was an improvement, and it was something that we slowly saw throughout the season. Now that they've got rid of Cowley and decided to go with Corberán, we don't know what's going to happen and what their style of play is going to be. We just don't know. They could end up being a surprise playoff contender, or they could end up being a disaster like they were last season. The general feeling around Huddersfield at the moment is one that's we don't really know. But I think for first games of the season, it could have been a lot worse for Norwich. So I think definitely you'd be taking that.
Yeah, there's always a potential where there is always a team or two in the Championship that just come from nowhere and start being good. That's what's so hard about predicting what's going to happen. Anyway, second up at Carrow Road, Jacob, Alex Neil returns, first home game of the season.
Yeah, well, we all know Preston. We know what they're about. They're always kind of a team that's solid, and you always look at them and say, if they had 1 or 2 more additions, they'd be up there. I think we know, we've said it before, he's done a fantastic job there with the money he's had to spend. And it's got a good, solid kind of British core there. I really like Ben Pearce in midfield. I think we're missing a player like him. Hopefully Ollie Skip is like that. But, you can get on the wrong side of Pearce and can easily get sent off. Barkhuizen as well, good set-piece delivery. They're tough and solid, aren't they? I'd be rather playing them at Carrow Road than Deepdale, though.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Ryan, I'll come to you on the next fixture, my man. Bournemouth away. It's one of the first sort of bigger teams Norwich are going to face this season.
Yeah, it's again like Huddersfield. It's a bit of an unknown because if it was still with Eddie Howe in charge, then I'd be a bit more fearful because they have brought in Jason Tindall, who's Eddie Howe's assistant, and we don't really know what he's going to be like as a first team manager. The thing is as well, they're losing players all over the place. They've lost Nathan Ake, they've now lost Ramsdale, the goalkeeper as well, and I expect a few more to go before the start of the season. We don't know what state Bournemouth are going to be in, and if they do, even if they do manage to keep hold some of the homegrown players like Lewis Cook, for example, they still have a pretty decent squad, and I wouldn't back against them getting promoted next season. So it could end up being a very tricky start, but with Tindall in charge, you just don't know.
No, it's a bit of another unknown quantity is what this league is about. I mentioned all the cup games in September. Jake, I'll quickly come to you regarding the cup. We know we've got Luton away in the first round. What do you expect us to do in the competition this season?
Well, we said off pod, didn't we? Daniel Farker loves the cups, but we could have literally about half a team or half a squad worth of players not available. I'd say bin them off this year, mate. There's no point. It's hectic enough in the Championship as it is, and it's even more kind of put together because of all the COVID late starting, all of that. So yeah, I'd bin them off and really concentrate on promotion.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, Ryan, coming to you on this one definitely, because you are a Derby County fan. I can see Rooney on your wall there. Give us the lowdown on Derby this season. What are you hoping for? But what do you think will happen eventually?
Well, the thing is with Derby last season, their home form compared to their away form was in complete contrast, and they were one of the teams to fear when going to Pride Park. I think it was only Preston who had a better home record than them last season. So Derby, maybe the fans being there it will go against them, but I think Derby will be hoping to get in the playoffs next season. They've got a young squad, the likes of Max Burrs, Louis Sibley, Jason Knight, all players who will have a year experience under their belt after last season, and you'd expect them to get better heading into next season. And obviously Wayne Rooney's there in charge, but not in charge, as the captain, and he'll be the ones that everyone will be looking to next season, especially on Sky Sports, who love mentioning him at every single moment. But I think Derby, if they manage to get in a centre-back, a winger and a striker, then playoffs will be very much on the cards for them next season. But again, hard to say when we're still what is it, 2 or 3 weeks away from the season actually starting, and there's still plenty of business left to be done. Well, at the moment, I think Derby are feeling fairly hopeful heading into next season.
Okay, Jacob, next up, Rotherham, after an international break, albeit. I think you've been to Rotherham before, haven't you?
Yeah, mate, I just wanted to ask Ryan quickly, actually, about Matt Clark at centre-back, because I really like him as a kind of left-footed player. I thought he was superb for Derby last year. I was just wondering if you thought Brighton were going to loan him out to you. Maybe Norwich could steal him.
Well, I'm surprised more clubs haven't been in for him, and the spotlight's kind of been taken from Matt Clark because of Ben White and what he's been doing at Leeds this season. But if it wasn't for that, I imagine Matt Clark would have been given a go in the Premier League next season, because he has been superb for Derby. And it's no surprise that Derby wants him getting back, because for many people, he's been Derby's player of the season. He is so good. And it's not just defensively on the ball as well. He is so composed. And considering he's still only, 23, 24, I think he's still got a bright future ahead of him, even though he's not exactly a youngster, but I could definitely see him playing in the Premier League in the near future.
Jacob, Rotherham. I think we'll do this as a block, actually. We've got Rotherham, Birmingham, Wickham, all together, sort of three or 4 days apart, each of them. That looks like the sort of run where we need to be sort of getting 9 points that week.
Well, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I did go to Rotherham a couple of years ago, and we know what we're getting from them. Paul Warner's done a great job. Obviously, loves Norwich, all of that. But yeah, very direct. Don't have Semi Ajayi anymore, so he can't score any more worldies. But yeah, they've got big Matt Smith up front, and they do just love to put the balls into the box. And they're the kind of test that Norwich have to face this season, isn't it? It's a bit more direct, a bit more stand on your toes, a bit more aggressive, really. And if we stand up to that, yeah, like you say, I think we should easily be able to kind of pick up points around there. Wickham as well, got Ikpeazu, if that, again, probably butchered the pronunciation, but big, burly Heart striker alongside Akin Afenwa, who, yeah, that could be very interesting to watch. But if Norwich play their game this season, I expect them to pick up more points than not.
Yeah, when I looked at the fixtures, and I was looking at the first few fixtures in the season, and I saw the initial 4 games, I thought, okay, they're quite tricky, but the 3 after that, I thought, that's quite kind. If you had to pick 3 teams that you thought would struggle next season, it'd probably be those 3, because obviously Rotherham and Wickham have only just come up, and Rotherham don't have a great record in the Championship as it is, while Wickham are still quite a small club, and I've already spoken to Wickham fans. They're just hoping to stay up next season. That's their only aim. And then Birmingham, they were absolutely dreadful last season, particularly since lockdown. They were so poor. But now with Aita Karanka in charge, it does seem like things might be a bit better next season, but I'm not expecting big things from Birmingham next season.
Mm. Those weeks in the Championship schedule, Jacob, where you sort of have 3 games and you can pick up a load of points and momentum, they are really important. They've shown themselves to be important over all the seasons. There's going to be even more of them this season with a condensed period in which the games are being played. Oh well, it's going to be important again, isn't it? Those sorts of weeks.
Yeah, 100%. We were fantastic that last year. Last time we were in the Championship. If we lost a game, we just bounced back. Like we lost 2 games away from home all season. That's what you need to do again if you want to go up as champions, really.
Yeah. Okay, Brentford, 27th of October away. This is the only team that really worry me, Ryan. Brentford do look good. I don't know how many players they're going to lose this summer, obviously, but that will be one of the trickier fixtures. A new stadium as well, of course.
Yeah, the thing is with Brentford, we don't know who they're going to lose yet. I'll be very surprised if they do end up with Ben Rama and Watkins come next season. I know Rico Henry's been linked with a move away as well. But even if they were to lose those 3 players, they've still got one hell of a squad. But losing Ben Rama will be a massive blow because he was my player of the season last season in the Championship. But they've got Tariq Fosu, who's a young lad who I expect to come in to replace him. They've been linked with Ivan Toney at Peterborough, who will probably come in as a replacement for Watkins if he leaves. And then Brentford, I think, will be good to go again next season. They're my favourites at this very moment in time. I've got to emphasise because there's still loads of business to be done, isn't there, before the start of next season. But I think Brentford would be the team I'd be looking at and thinking, yeah, they might have had a crushing loss in the playoff final, but they'll be hoping to bounce back and revenge the rest of the Championship next season.
Yeah, they certainly are a good team at this level. Jacob, then it's Bristol City away. What are you expecting from them this season? They're sort of middle of the table. I think they're 12th last season.
Well, when they had Lee Johnson, they massive yo-yo club, weren't they? They'd go on. There's Streaky Johnson, as he's well known, kind of 5 wins and then 8 losses. I believe they brought in their coach in. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it could be tricky for them. They have got a core of a good squad. It depends when you hit them. Really, they can be. I remember when we played them at Carrow Road and we beat them 3-2. They looked excellent on that day. And then again at Ashton Gate, we drew 2-2 with them. And their squad hasn't changed that much. You know, you've got good Championship players in there. I really like Callum O'Dowda. Andy Vyman on his day could do a job as well. Yeah, it completely depends. They're so streaky. It's difficult to kind of pin them down and say, yes, this is what they will do next season.
If I could just jump in there, they were linked with Chris Hughton when Lee Johnson got sacked, and all Bristol City fans were hoping Chris Hughton would come in. You guys know him well enough, and he's got a great record in the Championship. But when he didn't come in and they ended up keeping Dean Holden, the assistant manager, they were furious. And it's a good thing the fans aren't in the stadium at the start of the season, because I think we might be seeing a bit of a revolt from the Bristol City fans. But either way, they're not particularly happy with Holden, but they are kind of rallying around now and just saying, okay, we've got Holden now, let's see how it goes. But if they did have a good manager as someone like Chris Hughton, I think they could have very much be challenging for promotion. With Dean Holden, you never know, every manager's got to start somewhere, but it's not as inspiring as if they were to get Hughton in.
Okay, let's move on to November, because the first 3 games in November scare me a little bit. We've got Millwall and Swansea, followed by Warnock's Borough. Jacob, that's not the easiest run of games.
No, Gary Rowett's done a good job at Millwall, hasn't he? It's weird how Neil Harris kind of swapped him and did well at Cardiff, and then Gary Rowett's done well at Millwall. Brought in Troy Parrott, who we watched him in the Cup. I wouldn't rely on him massively, but I've seen kind of Millwall fans say they did need pace in behind. So obviously, you have Matt Smith, who's a big striker, but not very mobile. But again, yeah, it's just tricky games, isn't it? Like you say, it's going to be really interesting to see how we kind of use our squad this season and who kind of comes in and leaves, because I think we're going to need a bigger squad than what we have done. Even though Daniel Farker doesn't really enjoy a lot of players to pick from, I think we're definitely going to need it this year.
Millwall, Swansea and Borough, Ryan. Difficult run of fixtures.
I think you're discounting Stoke as well, because Stoke, for me, are my dark horses for next season, because under Michael O'Neill, since he came in, no side outside of the top 6 picked up more points in the Championship last season. He has done a superb job. In fact, all 4 of those teams I would put down as dark horses for next season. Gary Rowett has done a superb job at Millwall. And with Troy Parrott, someone who's very highly rated among Spurs fans, he could be the man who makes the difference for them next season after just missing out on the playoffs. Swansea, we saw under Steve Cooper last season, he did a superb job and only got to the playoffs, but were outdone by a quality Brentford side last season. Middlesbrough, as you mentioned, Warnock, we all know what he's like at this level, but they've got a lot of players who have been missing since last season. Daniel Ayala, for one, who's gone. So they've had to kind of bring players in, but Borough fans are getting a bit frustrated with the lack of business they've done so far. And then Stoke, as I mentioned, they've done some great business so far. Stephen Fletcher, who's just come off the back of his best season so far in football. Morgan Fox, who was one of the best left backs in the Championship next season. They're a side to watch, Stoke, next season. I'm telling you, keep an eye out for them.
Okay. And then the last game in November, Jacob, Coventry at home. They don't come more must win than that.
Mark Robbins, though, again, I think I'm going to say has done a terrific job. Obviously, we know from Sam McCallum's done well. They got a really good young squad there. I expect them to be a little bit more street smart than what Barnsley were this year. I know Barnsley stayed up, but it was a big old struggle there. We'll go on to Gerhard Struber later, how good a job he did. But yeah, I think Coventry, naive, they will be naive in parts, but I've got a good strong squad there. If they add a couple of, maybe a striker or two, and then a bit more Championship experience, I think they'll be fine under Mark Robbins.
Yeah. Okay, so on to December, always a crucial period in any season. I think there's 8 games in total this season. The first two, Luton, who finished 19th, and Sheffield Wednesday, who finished 16th. So 2 bottom half teams last season. Norwich, Ryan, I'd imagine Norwich will be looking at those fixtures and thinking, yeah, we need 6 points there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Luton, even though they had a massive turnaround since Nathan Jones came in post-lockdown, I still think their aim next season is just to stay up, even though, as I mentioned, they did look like they had turned a corner. They are still a club that is just kind of operating day by day, and they're not splashing the cash, are they? And yeah, I think that'll be a game that Norwich will be looking at and thinking we should be getting 3 points there. Sheffield Wednesday, I've got this sneaky feeling they could be a relegation contender next season. Obviously, they've had the 12-point deduction, and that's not a great start, obviously. But they were so poor in 2020. I think only Hull picked up fewer points than them. So it seems like something's not quite right at Sheffield Wednesday. And, well, we'll have to wait and see whether that continues into next season.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you there. Up next, Jacob, Forest. That's they imploded at the end of last season, but that is going to be a difficult game, you'd imagine.
Yeah, I like that they brought in Lyle Taylor. Obviously, I know he was criticised for the whole kind of not playing for Charlton thing, but he was very good for not a poor Charlton team, but probably not, well, definitely not as good as Forest. We know Lewis Graben, of course. And again, this is kind of the team that Norwich might struggle against because they really do just surrender the ball. Sabri Lamucci does just enjoy kind of a structured, solid team. I like Joe Lolly. Again, surprised no one's picking him up considering the goals and assists he does create for that team. Yeah, if Forest have the ball a lot, from what I saw last year, they seem to struggle. But if defending wise, they're very well structured and on the counter, definitely a threat.
Ryan, do you think Forest will be in the playoff places this season?
Yeah, definitely. My co-host on the second tier, Justin, he fancies them to challenge for automatic promotion next season. I'm not 100% sure because they seem to have something seemed to go wrong under Sabri Lamucci post-lockdown, really. There seemed to be this bad aura around the club, and it remains to be seen whether that's going to continue into next season. But as a whole, I think Forest have got the squad there to challenge for automatic promotion. And if they manage to go back to the good old days under Lamucci, then they'll be a sight to fear next season, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Blackburn, who finished 11th, and Reading, who finished 14th last season. So 2 sort of middling teams are up next. Ryan, what are you expecting from both of them this season?
Blackburn, I think, could challenge for the playoffs. They were a bit unfortunate last season. They were probably just a couple of players off from being one of those teams that really gave the playoffs a really good go. They've got Adam Armstrong, who seems to be someone who's getting better and better. But at this moment in time, they haven't got a goalkeeper on the books, which is not ideal. Reading, not convinced. They were very much a middling team last season. They lacked consistency, and that was their main struggle throughout throughout the whole season. Really, they surprised teams in some areas, but then in others they were just really, really poor. Mark Bowen, still not convinced by him as a manager. He was the sporting director, I think it was, and then was given the job full time. Whether he is still going to take Reading to the next step as a manager, who really knows? I'm not expecting great things from Reading for next season, I've got to say.
Okay. Couple of more difficult games and potentially another Carabao Cup game up next, Jacob. Cardiff at home, one of those horrible Championship teams, and then Watford away on Boxing Day.
Yeah, Cardiff, like you say, obviously did well to get into the playoffs. I thought they were unlucky against Fulham, maybe just a couple of players short. I think Glatzel's starting to get to it. Lee Tomlin on his day, I think when he's on it, is one of the best attacking midfielders in the Championship. Watford, I fancy them this year. No matter where they manager-wise, they always seem to have a good, strong assault at the Championship. Again, it just depends on who they keep. Obviously, I think Ben Foster seems to be saying good, solid goalkeeper pair of hands there. Their squad's quite old though, so I'd imagine that a few kind of new faces would be useful. Ismail Sarr, if he stays, he'll rip up the Championship.
You'd have thought so, yeah. QPR up next. Ryan, what have you made of them?
The thing is with QPR, they were so bad defensively last season. They were one of the worst teams in the league defensively. They were an absolute shambles. But going forwards, they were great because they had Iberi Easy, who everyone knows in the Championship, and then Bryce Samuel, Elias Chair, and Jordan Hugel, who's someone you guys have been linked with. But they were really good going forwards, and particularly Easy, who... The thing is with QPR, their fortunes next season will very much depend on whether they keep Easy or not, because if they lose him, they're losing a crucial player. And if you take his goals out of last season, they would have been very close to the relegation zone. They're also been linked with Asai Samuel. He's also been linked with a move away. So if they lose those two, that'll be a massive blow for them. And they've already lost Hugel, as you know. So they could be in a bit of trouble next season.
Yeah. January, much like I think it was October, doesn't look too friendly, Jacob. So we got Cardiff, Millwall, and Borough all in the same month. And then we've got Barnsley and Bristol City chucked in. So, do you fear that month, or is that a month you think we can pick up points in?
Well, yeah, kind of three sides there. You're saying that will kind of be in and around it. Warnock with Borough, it just, whilst they do lack in certain areas, and like Ryan said, they probably do need a few more kind of additions. He knows how to get clubs out of this league. Barnsley would be really interesting. I think they play similarly to us. They do like to have a lot of the ball, but again, they just made so many errors last season. But I was so happy to see them stay up. I like quite a few of their players. Connor Chaplin is kind of had a bit of a massive kind of renaissance, and then goal scoring wise, Corley Woodrow as well scored quite a few goals. He seemed to kind of found his place now. I think they're a young, exciting side, so I look forward to seeing them play at Carrow Road, and when we go to their place as well.
Yeah, we've of course got the FA Cup rounds 3 and 4 in January, Jacob. Do you fancy another run, or are you just concentrating on getting promoted?
All I care about is the league, mate. Don't care about the cups.
It was great fun last season. You don't fancy it again?
No, well, I want promotion.
Okay, fine. We'll park that there then. Right, Ryan, I'll come to you for February because we've got Swansea City up first. What are you expecting from them this season?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned with when we talk about November, Swansea are one of those sides that I think could be very handy next season because Steve Cooper did a magnificent job. The only issue is they've lost a lot of the loan players who were so important to him last season. Brewster, Gallagher, so good for them in the second half of the season, but they have managed to keep hold of quite a few of the players. Mark Gee is one of them. He was so good at the centre of defence, and he'll be a direct replacement for Mike van der Horn, who has now left the club on a free. So they have got a good foundation there, but they do need to get some replacements in for the likes of Brewster and Gallagher. But otherwise, I think Swansea will be a dark horse next season. I've got a lot of dark horses, but I think they're one of my genuine dark horses.
Yeah, there are always a few in the champ. We've got Stoke up next. We've spoken about them. You said you fancied them as another dark horse. Then we've got Coventry away, Rotherham at home, Birmingham away, Wickham away. It sounds familiar. I think we had them in that order before, but that another run where we're going to have to pick up points there, Jacob.
Yeah, mate. Like in all of those games you've mentioned there, we're favourites, aren't we? It's just how Norwich settle this year. Like, we've got so many kind of players coming in. It's going to be difficult to gel. And as we saw with Huddersfield last season, the kind of switching over a bad momentum is incredibly difficult. I think a couple of wins kind of in the first 5 games will be key, really, if we get off to a good start and then kind of continue that, really.
In February the 28th, Carabao Cup final, so we'll all be off to Wembley, obviously. Right, start of March, we have Brentford at home. We've spoken about all the teams now, but now that we're back on Brentford, are Brentford a team that we think are sort of top 2 material? And who else do you think will be battling it out for the top 2 spots, Ryan?
I think Watford, they're the bookies' favourites at the moment, and I think that's probably justified because out of the teams who have come down, Bournemouth, we don't know how they're going to be under Jason Tindall, and then Norwich, as you know, weren't particularly great in the Premier League last season, and it's going to take some doing to kind of reverse the trend there. But Watford have got so many good players who are still hanging around. The way, from what I've seen from Watford fans, from the conversations I've had with them, they're thinking they may end up with Ismail Assar, Etienne Capoue, Will Hughes, all these players who you think at a championship level, Christ, they're going to be pretty handy next season. And if they do manage to keep hold of all of them, then it's going to be quite hard to say they're not going to be challenging for automatic promotion. Big names don't mean everything at the end of the day. We saw with Stoke last season, they had some big names in their squad, but didn't really mean anything at the end of the day. And then Fulham as well, we thought, God, they've got Mitrovic, Nokia and Cavallero as their front 3. Oh, they're going to smash the league. And they only went up by the playoff finals. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're guaranteed promotion, but with the right man in charge, we don't know what Vladimir Ivic, I think that's how you say his name, he's come in. We don't know how he's going to take to the league and whether he can kind of get their morale back up after suffering relegation last season. So it's very hard to say, but I do look at Brentford and Watford and think those 2 will be the likely contenders next season.
Jacob, I'll come to you on the same question, mate. Top 2, who do you fancy?
So many ifs and buts at the minute. I'd be able to give you a bit more like when the window shuts. But yeah, Brentford, so, like, they're going to keep a lot of their solid kind of midfield. I really like Jensen in there. Ponce Janssen's made a massive difference. They're defensively, they're a lot better. I'm not sure about David Raya. Obviously, the kind of infamous playoff goal with Joe Bryan. I think he's definitely got a mistake in him. I don't think Ivan Toney's going to go there. I think he's backed himself on a Premier League move. But I do think Ollie Watkins will go. They always seem to have a replacement, don't they? They know what they're doing. I believe they're linked with a Ben Rama replacement anyway. He's going to be a massive miss, but I really like Mbeumo on the right-hand side. I think he kind of, after lockdown, wasn't as good as kind of before lockdown, but a really talented young player. Watford, like I said before, it doesn't matter if they sack 4 coaches, they'll still probably in and around it because, like Ryan said, they've got such a solid team there. Bournemouth, I'm not sure about Bournemouth. They need a lot of work there. I think defensively they need a whole restructure. Obviously Ake's gone. They were playing Lloyd Kelly at centre back at times. I think they have got a goalkeeper there in Mark Travers who can probably kind of deputise and replace Ramsdale. And I expect Norwich to be there. If we can turn that kind of tide around, there's no reason why we shouldn't be up in and around it.
Yeah. Okay, the rest of March reads as Luton at home, Sheffield Wednesday away, Forest away, and then Blackburn at home to finish the month. Right, moving on to April, because we're getting to the business end of the season now, and the running is not too bad. So April is Preston and Huddersfield to start, followed by Derby. And then we've got Bournemouth and Watford back-to-back, which is going to be a tricky 2 games because they're within 3 days of each other. Probably one of our tougher runs. And then QPR away. But if we're doing well at the end of the season, towards April, we are going to have to get points against Bournemouth and Watford back-to-back, Jacob.
Yeah, mate, that's exactly what it is. And it's the consistency, isn't it? Like I said earlier on, when we lost a game, we went and won the next one last time we were in the Championship. There will be kind of results that throw up themselves. But I was saying to people earlier on Twitter, I think Norwich will beat themselves at times if that will be the only reason we're not in and around it. We've got a good, strong squad. We've got replacements for the players who we think are leaving. And if those players don't leave, then crikey, we've got a hell of a squad. I don't think that many will go. I think only a couple will. Maybe Emmy, possibly Jamal or Max. For me, I think the others will stay. which means that you look at that whole squad, and I think it's a massively kind of ready squad to go and challenge.
Ryan, the last 3 games, QPR, Reading and Barnsley, that is quite a favourable run-in for a team that's been recently relegated.
Yeah, I'd be looking at that and be licking my lips. Yeah, you've got to look at that and think after the Bournemouth-Watford game, that could very well be 9 points come the end of the season, depending on where Norwich are in the table. But, just if I could just scoot back a bit and go back to that February-March period as well.
Yeah.
If you take out Brentford from the equation, you've got Coventry, Rotherham, Birmingham, Wycombe, Luton, Sheff Wednesday. That's a very kind run, really, isn't it? You're looking at that and thinking, well, Norwich could build up a head of steam there and really head into April. God knows where they'll be, but you'd imagine they'll be in the, playoff area at least. So by that point, Norwich could very well be heading into April, where the fixtures do take quite a nasty turn. But then after that, you've got May, which I don't want to curse it, but it should be a doddle, really, shouldn't it?
Okay, so that's the fixtures done. We've gone through them. I now want to try and get some sort of perspective, an outside perspective from Ryan on how he perceives Norwich this season. Ryan, if Norwich don't lose too many of our current squad, do you think there's a lot of Norwich fans think, oh yeah, it'll be easy, we'll walk the league. Do you think that's the case or not?
I think, as Jacob mentions, it's looking at this very moment in time, like Norwich will have a very similar squad to the one that got promoted. And if that is the case, then Norwich will be looking at that and thinking, well, we're in a very good position headed into this season. But even if they were to lose the key players like Buendia and the 2 fullbacks, then it's still going to be a tough league. I do think the Championship is quite open next season. We have mentioned Brentford and Watford, but even with that being said, they're not guarantees to be fighting for promotion this season. Last season, we saw the likes of Leeds, West Brom, Fulham, and we thought, okay, they're 3 teams who are definitely fighting for promotion there. This season, it's very hard to pinpoint the teams who will definitely be challenging for the title. But when you look at the squads Norwich have got and their form in the Championship, then I don't think there's anything to fear, to be fair. Oliver Skipp is one player who's very highly rated at Spurs. And then I can't offer too much insight to a lot of the other players who you've signed because I don't watch Villarreal B. So I don't know with you, unfortunately. Either way, Norwich have got a very good squad. I will say Kieran Dow, having been a Derby fan, we did have him on loan earlier in the season, and he was very average. It's got to be said. And then at Wigan, even though Wigan were very good, his record there wasn't great. If you take out the Hull game, which we all know finished 8-0 and was a bit of an anomaly, he only got 2 goals and an assist in that time in 12 appearances, which isn't sensational. So I wouldn't be looking at that and thinking, oh yeah, Kieran Dow is one hell of a signing. But either way, if you do look at that squad, it's still a very good squad, isn't it? And you'd expect Norwich to be challenging for promotion if they do manage to keep hold of all those key players.
It seems to me, Ryan, that like Kieran Dow seems to be a player that kind of flitters in and out of games and, well, can kind of be quality for, 20 minutes, but you won't see him for the other 80.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. I've got to say he's very one-footed, one-footed, which isn't ideal when you're a centre mid, but he does have the ability to, do something amazing every so often. But I'd still be looking at that. And if you manage to keep hold of the likes of Vrancic and Leitner, for example, then I'd expect them to be starting ahead of him, I've got to say.
Really? That's interesting because we actually sort of highlighted Leitner and Vrancic as players that we think could leave this summer. I think there may be surplus to requirements. It's interesting that you think that. On that note, when you see that Norwich squad, and we've mentioned you support Derby, so when those 2 games come around, who in the starting 11 are you going to be looking at and thinking, yeah, would not fancy playing against them?
Who in the Norwich team?
In the Norwich squad, yeah.
Well, Pookie is the obvious one, isn't he? Because he was so deadly in the Championship, but he did struggle a bit he started off well in the Premier League, didn't he? But then it all went a bit tits up in for the rest
Yeah.
of the 11 months of the season. So obviously Pookie would be the one who I'd be looking at and thinking, oh, what's he going to be like this season? What's his name? And Onel Hernandez is someone who I thought was really, really good in the Championship. And he probably didn't get the praise that he deserved from elsewhere outside of Norfolk. So he's someone I really like the look of. And then the two fullbacks, as we know, are just amazing, aren't they? It really surprises me that they haven't been picked up, because even though Norwich were fairly leaky in the Premier League last season, they're two players who you expect to have a big future in the Premier League.
Yeah. You mentioned Onel Hernandez there. I think Jacob probably wants to come in on that, because we're expecting big things from him this season, aren't we?
Yeah, like we always say, and it's probably the same with every winger, if he just knew what he was doing when he got to the final kind of quarter of the pitch, it would be great, because he can run past literally any player in the league. That's I think that's comfortable to say. He just can't cross and shoot, which is a fundamental part of football.
Yeah.
On his day, he's untouchable in this league. We saw it in the Prem. He beat, look at that Arsenal goal Todd Cantwell scored. He beat internationals, like well-known internationals, easily. Spurs he had up in kind of knots. That Manchester United goal, where he just, on his day, a fantastic player, and he loves the club. That's the most important thing. He will give 100% commitment, and I look forward to seeing him next year. Yeah, hopefully he can improve on his goals and assists.
Yeah. Okay, last question then we'll wind up. Jacob basically reckons that this is a really weak Championship season. Like the teams in it are weaker than they usually are. Is that something you agree with, Ryan, or not?
Yeah, I do think he's not completely wrong, really. As I say, it is so open this season. And when you consider the teams we were just mentioning, the ones who we thought were going to be challenging from a promotion, Brentford, Watford, the rest of them, you've got question marks over, haven't you? It's very hard at this moment in time to really fill out the playoffs, because I think I keep mentioning there's loads of dark horses, but there isn't anyone who you'd say is a definite playoff challenger. I think it's not ignorant to say it's going to be an open, it's a weaker Championship than it has been, but at the same time, this is a fairly unforgiving league, and if you are complacent, it will bite you on the arse. So I think if you are Norwich, you should be looking at the league and be thinking, oh yeah, we should be challenging for promotion this season. But I wouldn't exactly say it's set in stone and that's going to be the case.
Jacob, do you want to come back on that? Or are you happy?
I like that you've kind of put me in the shit there. So I will just kind of come back round and not be that ignorant Norwich fan, because I think the quality is not great, but I also don't think that Norwich at this moment in time are great in terms of their kind of headspace. So definitely not going to kind of disrespect this league in terms of being like, yeah, win here, win there, easy. Because there's a lot of teams in this league, if you don't turn up on your day, because will be a scout next season. If you don't turn up, they will beat us. There's a lot of kind of things we need to improve on. Set pieces is definitely one. I think that's why we've kind of purchased the players we have, a bit of added height, a slight bit of Championship experience as well, to kind of get ready for that. And like we said, I think our tactic is going to be slightly different in terms of slightly more direct down the wings, kind of whip more balls into the box. So we'll see. I don't disrespect this league. I think there will be times where we will definitely struggle. We will either be 10th or in that top 6 comfortably for the whole season. There's no in between with Norwich City.
I think the thing is as well with Norwich, obviously Daniel Farke is one of the only managers who has got a track record heading into the Championship next season. Off the top of my head, Ivic at Watford, we don't know what he's going to be like because he's only managed in the Greek league and somewhere else in Europe. Jason Tindall, this is his first managerial spell in charge of Bournemouth. And then going down the rest of the league, you've got Thomas Frank at Brentford. Even though he had one hell of a squad, he didn't manage to get them promoted. And I think that is something that can be held against him. There's so many unknowns in the Championship next season. There's only a few who are, there's good managers in the kind of mid-tier, but whether their squads are good enough to challenge for promotion is another thing. So I'd definitely be thinking Daniel Farke is one of the managers that you'd be backing to have a challenge for automatic promotion, just because he has that experience that not many other managers in the Championship next season will have.
And on that point, we've got Stuart Webber. Stuart Webber, we know the sporting director has got Huddersfield up. Well, basically, got Huddersfield up, and obviously Norwich. I think he's got the knowledge to kind of build a squad again. It would be different under expectation. That's the only thing, because last 3-4 seasons, all Daniel Farker has said is we are the underdog, and this year we're not. So it will be very interesting to see how Norwich kind of cope with that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how that dynamic comes about over the course of the season. But I think we'll leave it there for now, gents. Leave it on a positive note. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on, mate. What have you got planned for the season on the Second Tier podcast?
So we've had a look at these fixtures, and it seems like it's going to be coming thick and fast, because we usually put out our episodes every Sunday, and then if there's a midweek game, we'll put out some episodes as well. But it seems like there's loads of midweek games this season, so we are going to be pumping them out like it's nothing. But then, so what we're doing this season is we're changing things up a bit, and we're going to be hearing more from the fans of the other clubs in the Championship. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be exciting, and we're doing loads of meets episodes as well. Our most recent episode is with former Forest, Leicester, Bolton defender Matt Mills, and he was fairly outspoken. So if you want to listen to that, then make sure you do. And yeah, we've got loads of stuff planned for this season. It's going to be great. Make sure you tune in.
Yeah, definitely do. Recommend it highly. Jacob, anything to add, mate, or should we wrap up?
No, I think that's all good. Yeah, just on that interview with Matt Mills, yeah, it was a really good listen. So yeah, thanks very much, Ryan. I think we're going to work together a bit closer this year, and hopefully have you back on later on when Norwich are running away with the league.
Here's hoping. But anyway, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks very much.
See you later.